Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Cherries Chat, brought to you by DorsetLive. Our AFC Bournemouth coverage obviously continued at the weekend, and I'm afraid it happened, Bournemouth fans. The weekend did happen. I still can't quite believe it. I mean, my jaw was just fully dropped on the tube all the way back from the Emirates. Unfortunately, Bournemouth went 2-0 up against Arsenal, the Premier League leaders, and they conceded 3 goals in the second half. To lose 3-2 was another painful afternoon at the office. It was a 97th minute winner from Reece Nelson that settled the contest in the end. And it's a shame really that the scenes in the away end were spectacular. I'll freely admit I pretty much missed the opening goal after 10 seconds because I was too busy posting kickoff on all of our socials. So I missed that, but apparently it was good. Who knows? So yeah, disappointing day. I'm joined by Andy Jones again to dissect the game. What did you make of it, mate? It was certainly some watch, wasn't it? But I mean, from a Bournemouth perspective, it was just what a heartbreaking way to lose a game.
Yeah, it was a tough one to take because, at 2-0 up, you're thinking, okay, here's 3 points possibly on the cards that no one was expecting. The team had completely surprised Arsenal with the manner in which they scored that opening goal, completely, surprised everyone. And yeah, just, when it went 2-2, there was this horrible gut feeling that, oh no, this is going to get turned around. And then you're thinking, well, you're in 95, 96 plus minutes. Okay, managed to weather it. And then right there at the death, took the wind out of everyone's sails, I think. And it was frustrating as well because a point would have been amazing, and every point counts at this stage. And yeah, just extremely frustrating that they couldn't hold on just for, 10 more seconds.
I don't think it's fair to say that they, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory kind of thing, because I don't think anyone was expecting Bournemouth to be that competitive in the first place. I think I'll hold my hands up. I admitted before the game that I thought they'd lose 2-0 quite comfortably, to be honest. And obviously, yeah, the goal after, I think it was 9.11 seconds from Billy kind of set the tone for actually quite a brave first half performance at both ends of the field where, the transitions were better than we've seen in recent weeks. At some points, a bit ropey, but yeah, that's Bournemouth start at the moment. So you just have to sharpen up on those a little bit. And they were better, to be fair, this weekend. And then defensively, we all knew they'd have to weather a storm. And, Arsenal's top line was like 6 players. And Zinchenko is pretty much everywhere. And it's a lot to handle. They tried to double up on Zamora originally. I think he kind of warmed the contest a little bit. And then they sort of switched it, little cutbacks, pullbacks, underlaps as well. They were trying all sorts to try and get through. And yeah, I mean, for most of the game, Bournemouth did stand firm. Like you say, I think when Thomas Partey scored, I was kind of hoping that the worst didn't happen. And then Ben White got the goal, Paul Bourne lad. He went to school with him, so that made it even worse. And he got the equaliser. And then, I couldn't believe when the winning goal went in, to be honest. I could barely see it because all the fans obviously flew to their feet. And yeah, it was just chaotic, coaching staff. On the pitch, substitutes on the pitch, it was, from a Bournemouth perspective, it was a properly grim watch, that last goal, I have to say. But it's just like we were discussing a little bit earlier, as much as Bournemouth did defend well in stages, and I think, most people can agree on that. Unfortunately, I'd say 2 of the goals were preventable, and obviously that makes kind of the overall defensive effort seem, just like it's again been undermined by individual and potential structural issues for those 2 goals.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. The first 2 goals, in my mind, there's defensive mistakes. I think Semenyo for the first one and Anthony for the second. It looked to me like, the first ball's been cleared and they've looked, quickly sort of hit, get themselves into position to be able to counter, to be able to, win the transition. But it felt like the wrong thing to be doing at that stage of the game. When you're 2-0 up, 2-1 up, the priority isn't to go on the attack. It, first and foremost, I think their roles there, they should have been keeping an eye on, Semenyo Partey. He sort of drifts and leaves him. He ends up at the back post and can stick it in. And, really similar with Anthony. He's sort of moved forward and allows Ben White to get in behind after he thought that the first ball was cleared. And obviously then the second ball comes in and Ben White finds himself, in space and finishes well. But I think had those 2 players been a bit closer to the Arsenal counterparts, they could have been in a position to at least affect their strikes or, get themselves in the way and something could have been different. And then we probably don't see the third goal because if Bournemouth were able to keep it to 2-0 or 2-1, that third goal maybe doesn't happen. But even then, that third goal, Nelson's on the edge of the box on his own. There's no one that goes out to him and looks to close that ball down. It's a great strike, but they're little things. But when there's so much at stake, you feel like they need to be highlighted, and it's the little things that can often make the difference.
Agreed. I mean, I've sort of spotted the whole having a man on the edge of the box completely unmarked thing quite a lot this season, actually, which leads me to believe it's not accidental, it is by design. Saw against Crystal Palace, I believe, from which they scored as well from when the ball came back out. And then, twice against Arsenal, both found proven costly. So, not quite sure I obviously agree with that. I don't get paid the big bucks to set these defences up, obviously. So, I mean, I'm sure that wasn't the desired execution for that idea. But, like you say, just sort of frustrating individual errors, little lapses here and there that kind of lead me to believe that, Bournemouth can't just I get the game plan. Like any underdog will go to the Emirates, will go to any big team in the Prem, try and sit tight, compact for a lot of the game and then take the chance on the counter. So the actual game plan and the structure behind that, I don't think came as no surprise. It's more like, do Bournemouth have the resources to be able to, sit that deep around their box for 90 minutes and not make these individual errors? Because I feel like, as we've seen at the weekend and several times before, they can withstand a fair amount of pressure, but if you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, eventually something will crack. So I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like that's the impression I get of, sit that deep, you're inviting pressure. I feel like that's a backline that or almost like an organisational thing that will make mistakes and lead to costly goals like we saw at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal had 30 attempts on goal. And, it's tough for anyone to be able to sustain that, let alone when you're a team struggling at the bottom and you possibly don't have the same quality in players that you might have higher up in the league. And so, like you say, it's that concentration for, 96, 97, 98 minutes. I know there was, some complaints about the time when the goal was scored. It was over the allotted added minutes, but I believe that added minutes are always a minimum of anyway, and then it's at the discretion of the referee. And of course, there was an injury to a Bournemouth player in that time. But regardless, you play to the final whistle, and I don't think that's an issue. It's about concentration and like you said, just the constant onslaught that you're going to get from a team like Arsenal. Is it sustainable? I don't think it is, and we saw that really. But going back to the game plan, I actually think Gary O'Neill, he's done a good job here at setting the team up. I think the team were set up quite well, and he wanted them to be more clinical. He said that in the week, and I believe they were. Only 4 shots, but 4 on target and 2 goals. That's not a bad return for your sort of attacking output. And I think actually, there should be some credit that goes towards the way he set up, but then it's sort of, then do we look at the actual in-game management, where the substitutions are the right ones at the right time? Did it disrupt things? We possibly won't know because, we can't go back in time and change those decisions. But, Arsenal substitutions made a massive difference. And, that was possibly key in those changes in the second half. Reece Nelson coming on for Smith Rowe, who had himself come on for Trossard, I believe, in the first half. Mikel Arteta made those changes for the better of his team, and he's got the win. And, that's possibly something we should look at as, people looking at Bournemouth and how's that in-game management. But like I said, I do think the game plan, like you said, was the right thing to do. But is it sustainable to be on the back foot and so deep against a team like Arsenal?
Yeah, I don't think it's a game plan or an approach that will, against teams in and around Bournemouth, I don't think that's a style that will get them the required points to stay up, to be honest. But against the big teams, I fully understand it. And I mean, I don't think there would have been too much criticism if they had snatched a point. And they were literally 30 seconds away from doing that. So I don't think you can say on paper it was a poor approach or game plan. I think actually, like you say, it worked quite well. And I think some credit's deserved there. I do agree with you on sort of question marks over the in-game management. I was surprised think Ryan Fredericks came on and went over to the left, and I was surprised because Alan Smith has played there a lot before. Obviously, it's not his preferred position whatsoever, but you just do a job for the team, don't you? So I kind of feel like that would have been the better move. Obviously, again, we're talking in hindsight; it's difficult. So yeah, little bits and pieces. You have to bear in mind as well that no Jeff Lerma, no Hamid Traore both felt tightness in the week. I had absolutely no inkling that they were out until the day. Just before team news, it basically emerged that those two would miss the game, and I think everyone saw the team sheet and thought, oh, but we're going to get rolled over here, and that just wasn't the case at all, was it? But how much do you think the absences of Lerma and Traore did affect the approach and the end result?
Oh, that's an interesting question because you can look at the game and think at 2-2 at 90 minutes. Well, actually, it's done quite well, hasn't it? We'd be talking completely differently if that third goal hadn't gone in, because it's a point away at Arsenal. I thought Joe Rothwell did okay. I didn't think he was too out of his depth. There was some good bits by him. Obviously, Cookie got some minutes as well towards the end. Came on, but yeah, possibly maybe having a player like Jeff in there would have. Don't know, maybe give him some more urgency or some more resilience in the centre of the park. He's quite good at that. He's quite energetic. He's always, maybe he's one of those players that for the third goal would have been out there closing down. But it's all hindsight and we don't know. I was quite pleased to see Semenyo start though. I thought that was a really good choice. I know we talked about maybe Anthony going out on the left and hadn't probably considered that Semenyo could play there. And I thought he did quite well. And obviously we've mentioned about the first goal, he possibly could have done better defensively, but I think going forward, he was a real attacking threat.
Yeah, I have to say Jerry Wofford, I was really impressed with him, to be fair. Had to come. I mean, he was basically penned around his box for large parts of that game, but it was a really dogged performance. He was kind of everywhere trying to snap into tackles and trying to keep the structure, and then tried to move the ball forward whenever he could. I feel like it's a weakness we've touched upon before, and I certainly have in my writing, where Bournemouth sometimes really struggle to kind of piece together several passes. Like, I don't think I can remember too many occasions where they actually sort of maybe put together 5, 6 passes at Arsenal. I understand why, because Arsenal are an incredible counter-pressing team. It's difficult. And Bournemouth, predominantly did look for that kind of like direct route through the thirds. But yeah, Rothwell tried to kind of calm things down a little bit when he could, but I feel like the game was just like, it just, every time Bournemouth got the ball, moved it forward, it kept coming back, just waves of pressure, just told at the end of the day. But I definitely can pin that down to any individuals, really. I
remember one moment. I do remember one moment, and it's sort of like trying to get out from the back on the left side, and all of a sudden Zamora, it doesn't look like he's got an out ball, and he starts running, and then he ends up turning inside, and then loses the ball, and Arsenal go on the attack, just outside Bournemouth's box. It came to nothing, but I think he just highlights that point, that sort of inability to be able to, and then he didn't have an out ball, and then he's turning inside into danger, maybe similar to what Billing did the week before against City, where he turned inside and lost the ball on the edge of his box. It does maybe feel like you're right, that there seems to be a lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of solutions as to when they're trying to get out. There doesn't seem like there's always the obvious, how are we getting out of this situation?
Yeah, that's something that I've criticised before as well. And yeah, I'm not going to go I'm not going to be too savage about it away at Arsenal, because we all know how difficult it is to get a result there. And like I say, I think the overall performance, I can't really poke too many holes in. But yeah, we've seen that before, of kind of, Bournemouth try and get through those thirds and play out a little bit. And sometimes it works brilliantly and they're incisive, and sometimes it's very blunt. They lose the ball and then they get hurt after that turnover. So yeah, we saw that quite a lot at Arsenal, and I'm sure that's something that owner will look to work on. I asked him post-match about that cutting edge and whether or not he saw much improvement of how they used the ball. And he said, yeah, to be fair, there was definitely a certain uplift on that front, but he was keen for more. And yeah, against Liverpool this weekend and the fixtures beyond that, I think that's something that's really going to have to come into play a lot more than it has. Just to round off, because obviously we're not the doom and gloom podcast, of course not. Any positives from the defeat at Arsenal that you think that the team could draw on moving forward? Because I think Yeah, there's definitely several that they might reflect on, or might reflect on today, and in a bit more of a positive light potentially.
Well, I think I touched on it earlier. I felt they were more clinical with the chances that they did have. All of them on target, which is positive. 2 goals from those 4 shots. That's a pretty good return. And I wouldn't say that the other 2 opportunities were chances that maybe the first Watara one in the first half. You think, can he slip that past Ramsdale? You could see the frustration on Solanke just after he missed it. I think Solanke felt that was a really good chance to go 2 up at that point. And then Don's chance in the second half, which I thought he did brilliantly to actually get his shot off. Really nice way he brought the ball down, turns and got his effort in. So I think that was a positive, being a bit more clinical in front of goal and taking the chances when they had them, which is vitally important, and especially against a team like Arsenal. I like the ingenuity of the first goal, trying something different. The way that they just ran with 5-6 players straight from kickoff. Got lucky with some pretty terrible Arsenal defending as the ball ended up at Billing, but he took that. So there's those positives. I think the team seemed to know what they were doing more this week with that formation. And I think they were trying to take more risks and going forward. I think something we touched on, the week before, that's what we'd like to see, just maybe, try and impact their style more on the opposition. And I felt they did that. And, they're 2-0 up. You'd have felt like it was, the perfect game at that point. Like we say, just probably a few individual errors and just the sheer volume of attacks. It was inevitable that it came to what it did. But
yeah, I agree with all those, to be honest. The kickoff move I thought was great. We've seen Bournemouth attempt sort of similar things from kickoffs before, and yeah, they work. Sometimes they don't work, but if they do work, a lot of teams latch onto it. You see, like Real Madrid tried the one that brought it against Fulham. So it just goes to show, that always pioneers on that front. That's something they can be pleased with. I don't think anyone on the coaching staff, and definitely the analysts behind us, expected Bournemouth to score from that. So that was a nice bonus. It may have kind of, given Arsenal a bit of a kick to kind of, recover from that and push on, which they did. But I think you've got to applaud that. Fair play to them. It's not easy to score goals in the Premier League, so to sort of get one from that situation deserves a lot of credit. I agree with you as well about the execution of the game plan. There was definitely more, clearer ideas. They looked a bit more comfortable in that shape. I feel like, for this weekend, I'd probably change back to 4. We said this last week on last week's podcast. I feel like, the 2 banks of 4 is probably the better way to go. But now we've seen that with the 5, that they can do that to a very decent standard against one of the best teams in the Premier League. So, it's options for O'Neill moving forward, and it's definitely not all doom and gloom. I think another big positive as well, just to round off, is the fact that teams around Bournemouth still are dropping points. Obviously, Southampton won, Bournemouth are bottom. There's no escaping that fact. I think they're only 1 point adrift though. Admittedly, the goal difference really doesn't help, but they're still in with a real fighting chance. And I think try and get something for Liverpool, try and just push through that, and then you've got fixtures that those are the games you really need to get points from, and those are the games I think that will define the season. I'm not sure what you think on the run coming up, just to quickly round off, but I think that will be crucial as to whether or not they stay up or not instead of this weekend.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on probably switching to a back 4 against Liverpool, mainly because Liverpool set up differently to how City and Arsenal do. Gary O'Neill's been very, very good about how they have their sort of front 5, those two. They operate front 5. Liverpool's much more of a front 3. With a bank of 3 behind them. So the way they set up is different. And I think despite Liverpool's result yesterday, the way they've been a bit Jekyll and Hyde sometimes this season, I still think there's a possibility Bournemouth can get something out of the game. Liverpool have been suspects at times defensively this season. And the way, if Bournemouth can show that attacking intent like they did against Arsenal, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to score against Liverpool side. And then, the run coming up, we did a piece on where we think Bournemouth are going to get points on Friday. I think Villa is one of those places where I can see them getting some points there. And then then there's a run of some teams where it looks like there's an opportunity. Fulham, Brighton, both doing really well this season, but they're not Arsenal, they're not Liverpool, they're not Man City. So you've got to think that there's more of a chance. I think Leicester away is a big one. I think there's points in that one. And then it's sort of the games against Southampton, Leeds, West Ham and Everton. I think they're all crucial games. And even Palace possibly on a really bad run at the moment. It's a bit more towards the back end of the season. But, there's still Chelsea and Man U and Tottenham as well to come. So it is tough. But I think they should be focusing on those first games I mentioned and the teams in and around them, because like you say, that the points are so tight down there that if you take points off of those other teams, then that's the best chance that the Bournemouth have of staying up, I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of, not a few positives from the weekend, I think. Could definitely take great pride in a large parts of that sort of defensive showing, and a few gunners we saw going forward that they can score goals, more goals at this level, which is always good. So yeah, a lot to take forwards, I think. A few lessons to obviously learn as well, and yeah, I think it will take the players a couple of days to kind of pick themselves up because of the manner of that defeat. And unfortunately, there has to be a response this weekend. I mean, it's only Liverpool. They didn't win the weekend, did they? And they won 7-0. So very much it's going to be a tricky game. Liverpool now free scoring, tight at the back. They look like a different animal. So it's going to be, a really difficult game. But there's a necessity to get points now, isn't there, Andy? So, I mean, can you see them getting points at the weekend just to quickly round off again?
Yeah, I do. I do see them being able to get points just from the fact that Liverpool have dropped plenty of points this season. I know they seem in the league anyway at the moment a completely different team. I think there's 4 or 5 games without conceding now. They've scored loads against United yesterday, but you look at the Palace game, only a week ago. I think they played 2 games in between, but you look at that game and you think, well, away at Palace, they really struggled to get going at all and looked quite dreadful going forward. So I always think away from Anfield, it's a different kettle of fish for Liverpool. And I think had it been at Anfield, I wouldn't have seen anything. But at home, why not? Why not get a point? Or
I'm sure I have to say, definitely at the weekend.
I like to be more optimistic. I think that there were more positives to come out of the defeat to Arsenal than negatives, purely because it wasn't a team that just lay back and let Arsenal roll them over. There was, they wanted to try and go and win the game, and they showed that fight and that desire. And actually, reflecting on it now on a Monday, I think, okay, yeah, no one was actually expecting to get anything out of the game, and to actually have taken it all the way to the last 10 seconds. Actually, let's sort of maybe look at it that way and try and spin it a bit more positively so that the team can feel a bit of pride and a bit of positivity going into the game against Liverpool. Okay, we can play against these teams. We can take them all the way. And maybe that added bit of positivity will get them some points at the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a nice note to finish on, to be honest. I think we did see a lot of the fight and character in that squad. And you can see how devastated they were at full time. A lot of them sort of dropped to their knees and just couldn't believe it. But yeah, repeat performances like that against anyone in the Premier League, I think we'll get enough points to stay up. So I think that's a nice way to round off. I think we'll park it there. Andy, thank you very much for on again this week. We'll be back same time next week. Everyone, keep your fingers crossed for the weekend. Like I said, I'm feeling optimistic. I haven't jinxed it. You never know. I don't want to get a reputation for doing that, but yeah, we'll see. Like I say, I'll be there at the White Honey on Saturday. If you see me, please come and say hello. Stay tuned to the website throughout the week as well. We'll have loads of content building up, including a reaction from Gary and on Friday's press conference. And yeah, we'll be back same time next week. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, everyone. Cheers.